Today I have prepared another exciting video for you. Simply a tutorial video about divergence because many people still don't understand it or don't know how to read or draw it on the chart. I have now created an indicator for you, or rather I haven't just created one, but I have optimized an existing indicator available on TradingView so that you now get a label displayed where a divergence occurs. We are currently talking about the weekly chart, which you see displayed here, and where you can also set up an alert to be notified. This is the RSI divergence indicator. I am also making it available to you completely free of charge. The edited version, you just go to my Telegram group, you have the link in the video description in the community group, then go to the trading ideas section and you can use the pinned message up here to download the indicator and then upload it to TradingView. Why am I making this video for you again? Because I had already published it a year ago in the Learn Trading Step by Step to Profit Trader section of my playlist. The video has 565 views, even though a divergence is such a valid signal, yes, one that you can use to capture a mean reversal or even a short-term reversal. That's why for anyone who wants to understand this in detail, you should definitely watch that video as well. We'll go through it very briefly now so that you understand what a divergence is. Otherwise, I would be really happy if you could leave a subscription and a comment or a like on this video. Watch the whole playlist. There are some very interesting videos in there. What is a divergence? A very short explanation, maybe 1 minute. If we see, for example, the price makes a lower low here, yes, while the RSI, as we see it here at the bottom, because we have two indicators where we can apply this, the normal RSI can display this and send alerts, but they arrive with a delay. And then later we also have the woman choose side up. But simply put, when we see Bitcoin, the price makes a lower low, while the RSI does not make a lower low. That is a divergence. It means we have an imbalance between the RSI and the Bitcoin chart in terms of price action. Because if we look at how that looks in detail, it's simply that when I go to the chart here and we compare it with the RSI below, it's the case that we make exactly the same lower lows and lower highs in the Bitcoin price as we do in the RSI. And if that is no longer continued in that way, yes, so that it is in sync, then a divergence occurs. And I'll remove that again now. That was a very brief explanation. We have the option here to work with the RSI, or later, I'll get to the second explanation then. It's the case that if we use the wave trend from Lazy Bear, which also sends very valid signals. Because the labels you see up here, you don't normally get those. I just generated that for you in the indicator so that you can see it displayed. It looks like much less now than what the RSI shows. Don't worry, the Lazy Bear wave trend is prepared in such a way that it can also show RSI signals, but also from the various oscillators that are included here as well, it has the option to display divergences. But we'll get to that. Yes, what I can also add, what I can also say, is that this naturally works in every time frame. If we look at this here, we really had massively good top signals. Bear market bottom almost hit on point by the Lazy Bear wave trend. But then the RSI showed us once again, hey, we made a lower low here with Bitcoin and we have a bullish divergence here that is still valid. Otherwise, that signal wasn't wrong, yes, because if we also include the RSI, we made a lower low here, while the RSI did not make a lower low. In any case, that was then expanded, because I'll come to that later with the RSI when we look at it. It doesn't give the signal, the RSI, immediately when it appears here, but rather 1, 2, maybe even 3 candles have to pass until the signal appears here. Because the RSI, because the price could continue to go down, and only when there is confirmation here that the price is not going to go down further, then it would send out the signal, all via alarm. The RSI can do that, but the Woody CCI can also do that. And we can of course do this in any time frame. By the way, even if it might look like it wasn't a big drop now. But for that time, it wasn't actually that little because we had a small drop of just under 17% here after receiving the signal from the CCI. And you have to be careful when you are trading bearishly, even with the possibility that we are entering a bull market. We will come back to that later. It also works wonderfully on the daily chart, just so you can see that. Will you have false signals? Yes, why? The lower we go with the time frame, the more often a divergence occurs, and the less strong this recovery or mean reversal will be. Yes, regardless of which direction it goes now, but overall, if we look at this here, the buy signal is very valid. A sell signal would of course not have worked out well right now. Despite everything, when these signals come, they come at an incredibly good time. That means with this candle close, that was at 104, that was at 104,200 US dollars, and after that it went down to 100,758. This means you can actually hedge your position quite quickly. That signal was also very good. If we continue on the daily chart, the signal was of course very good. And you can actually see that when such a signal appears from the Wu Manchu Saivab, it usually comes at a real local peak, and the price has a correction afterwards. That means you can potentially hedge well here, or include a DCA bot, a possible grid bot, or something similar. You can see that several days pass after that before it goes in the other direction. That's just as a small comparison. We really have valid signals that could hardly be more perfect if we are talking about a reversal, or to hedge as quickly as possible or take profits. If I just go through this, even here, if that doesn't look valid now, it wasn't valid for the overall trend, of course, but even here, it went down from 37,000 to 34,000. Here, the signal was at the peak. If we go in, it went down from 37,000 to 35,000. There was a small drop here as well. That means there is no 100% indicator, not even a divergence. Yes, this is now buy and sell. Forget that this is a classic buy and sell indicator. No, here it really tries to give signals based on divergence with which you can possibly also hedge yourself well. Or rather, to take profits. Don't use it as a classic buy and sell indicator now, because where I would apply it less strongly, for example, even if they are only small trades, is when we are really entering a kind of unstoppable bull market. Yes, one that is just constantly rising, then you would have to be a bit careful there, but overall it is super interesting and easy to use. How does it work now? Let's stick with the RSI for a moment. By the way, here too, yes, these were all very good signals. Just take a look at it yourself once you've got the indicator. But what I'm concerned with now is how does it work? The very first indicator we can use for this to also have signals sent to us, to also have alerts sent to us, is simply the RSI, the classic RSI that you find on TradingView. I'll go to About the Script, Relative Strength Index RSI, you just go there. You take that one, simply add it to the chart, and then you have the option here. In this case, I go to Style, I always turn off the MA, set the RSI to white and make it a bit thicker. Otherwise, you have the option here to calculate divergence. And when you click on this here, you can already see that these divergences are included. And there we have very, very clean signals that come in here. Also here, so that you can see what I meant earlier, yes, that the Cipher B gave a signal here at around 20,000 US dollars, but we still went down to approximately 16,000. But there, for example, the RSI showed us again, hey, we have a bullish divergence. That means if you perhaps already bought on the spot market in the bear market and we went even lower, then you naturally have the opportunity to buy more here and then ride a nice bull market afterwards. Just as a small example for now, we naturally have many more signals here that were all wonderful in that regard. I will get to those signals in a moment. Yes, what percentage was that? Because that was in the bull market. But if we include that quite simply now, we'll do that in a moment. We had a correction of 20% here. What kind of correction did this bearish divergence have? I said that this is usually done a bit later, yes, 2 or 3 candles, but if we take that, there was a correction of about 28%. Also here, if we include this bearish divergence, that was a correction of about 27%. Then we had a smaller correction, that means it wasn't as valid. That was only about 7%, and we don't even need to talk about the last big divergence. For those who have followed me, yes, throughout the entire bull market, I said that we were forming a massive, large bearish divergence here on a weekly chart basis, which is just incredible, yes, because Bitcoin was rising the whole time, the RSI didn't make any higher highs, and I sold a little bit by bit after that. Today I think it was a good decision. Back then, of course, I was a bit nervous in case we were heading into a parabolic run. So much for that explanation. How do I set up my alerts here? I go in here to the RSI, have the alerts in there, and can then have the regular bullish or regular bearish divergence outputted to me via an alarm. I would set it to once per bar in this case, and then also here, and then yes, the notify app, so that I also get it in the app or play sound and toast notification. But when I look at how many bearish divergences and opportunities the RSI gave here, which I don't get displayed at all with the Wu Manchu here. Why is that? The Wu Manchu basically works with these wave trends. So the wave trend makes a higher low here, while Bitcoin makes a lower low. And I also have the option to have the divergence displayed by the RSI, as well as by the oscillator that is in the background. We will go through that in a moment. That will be a massive amount of more possibilities that you have here. But what I want to show here, yes, it's not, because it looks here as if it were the green dot that is responsible for the divergence here. No, that would be a reversal sign. See, it really comes into its own very, very well in this area now, because the divergence came together one-to-one with this reversal point. But don't be fooled here. I definitely want to make sure to mention that We have the big example here in this area. Because the divergence is calculated differently here, and I have to go in here, and you can see that in this area the divergence is, I'll make this a bit bigger, only when this light blue wave, yes, so this wave that we have, light blue and dark blue, when light blue crosses downwards, then the divergence is generated here. Then the crossover is completed with this candle, and then the signal comes. The dots are a completely different topic again. So much for that now. Now let's go back to how we can adjust the settings for the indicator so that I can say, okay, I also want this reversal. I might want to capture more reversals. For that, I go to the settings, I go in here. By the way, also for those who might be using the indicator to display a divergence, regardless of the time frame, for the wave trend channel length, you can make a selection. Basically, it is usually set to 9. Yes, on the weekly chart at 9, it naturally had more signals. Unfortunately, it didn't give a buy signal. I personally have it set to 10 now. Yes, you can also try using it with 11, but 10 is usually very, very valid. And if you are perhaps trading smaller time frames, you would have to see whether you take 9, 10 or 11. But there isn't really anything more to it than that. But how do I get the other divergences displayed now? I just scroll down a bit here. It is important, of course, that show divergence buy and sell label, that this is checked. And then I come to show RSI here. Because this line that you see, which is red, pink, green and so on, that is an RSI that is already built into the Cipher B here. And there I can go to show RSI regular divergence. And what does it do then? It gives me these signals, which also bring in good corrections in the meantime. That is what we discussed before. 20%, I think it was almost 30% there. Yes, you can see those in there as well. But that's not all of them. And I don't really want to have too many signals on the chart. It's not really about me saying I trade every signal. I naturally have to do a technical analysis here that confirms it for me as well. I have another one from stochastic RSI further down. Yes, that is this line that we have here. Here too, I can show my stochastic RSI regular divergence. And then you take a look at what else has come in here, which other signals are included now. Yes, and those are exactly these stochastic. So this light blue line that you see here, they also have divergence here. And you can see that it also hit very, very, very good signals. If we look at this here, where it went in, we actually had another recovery of 25%. If we look further, where did the next bullish stochastic RSI come in? Well, there was something in there again, because you might not always be there from day one, but 84% or even 97% if you got in here before the next correction came in, which the RSI then showed us again with this bearish divergence, which you could have shorted again. A big advantage, I can of course, if I have a long position, I can say I'll open a short hedge here, then we continue to rise. My short just makes a loss, and my long in this short time where I'm making this loss, my long simply doesn't make any losses, but that is balanced out by the hedge position. Yes, those possibilities exist, but just as a small validation of how well a divergence works and how valid signals suddenly appear here, where opportunities X exist for entering and exiting. Large time frame, much more valid than a small time frame. Just a quick look at the daily chart again. We would now, of course, because we have every divergence in it, probably have way too many. That means here I would really make sure not to trade every divergence, or perhaps not use all three possibilities of the divergence, but the wave trades are very interesting. The RSI is interesting. We can look at the stochastic RSI. It is, after all, a smaller time frame if you see something here. Okay, it doesn't show much more or less. The smaller the time frame for the stochastic, the more difficult it becomes. Let's briefly go into the 15-minute chart so we can see that again. Yes, and see the chart continue to rise here. If we say we're scalping a bit and we just remove the stochastic RSI divergence for now, then we'll be done with the video soon anyway. There, the stochastic RSI divergence is gone. Then you can see there are far fewer signals because I can use the stochastic on a larger time frame, of course, but it becomes much more valid then. If we look at the 15-minute chart now, you can already see that it actually becomes very, very interesting with lows, right? Of course, you have to accept losses the smaller the time frame. I can say it again. Yes, the sooner it is, the higher the chance that it won't play out immediately, but rather that this divergence can extend here. Just like in the bullish area that the divergence can extend. But overall, if you look at it properly, there are definitely very strong possibilities for small scalp trades or day trades. Well, even though there was a sell signal here very, very often and a lot, we had quite good opportunities to hedge ourselves there early as possible. This is not something where I would say a small time frame, you take it as a swing position, but rather when the signal comes, I really go short. I want to hedge myself as quickly as possible, especially when we have something like this, a more of a trend consolidation, but otherwise there are really very many valid signals here. So how do I add the alerts for the Cipher B? It's very simple. You go to add alerts here and then you have them here, which you normally don't have with the Cipher B. You have bullish regular and bearish regular divergence, but also the hidden ones. I'm not even going to talk about the hidden ones now, right? You are welcome to watch my video here. Divergence trading simply explained, where I go into that in detail, but I'm really concerned with the normal divergence, which are the regular divergences that are displayed here in the chart. Please really do not just use this as a simple buy and sell indicator. Do that with a technical analysis, but overall you really have very good opportunities here with these two indicators to create a reasonable divergence setup. Especially if you have trouble yourself recognizing these in the market, reading them out, you have the opportunity here to actually have it visualized. And that is of course very interesting, because then there is also the possibility to better understand the divergence and see the validity of a divergence. Exactly. That's it for the video. Feel free to leave a subscription and a like, and we'll see you next time.